If long form is the way to go, if the audience quality is higher on long form, then why are we spending so much money on shorts?
You can never rely on your followers, but you can rely on the email addresses.
How do you know if a business idea is a good business idea?
I was an advisor to TikTok, advisor to Reddit. So I was always interested in, like, you know, all my apps, everything I created had community a part of it.
How do you know how much to charge for what you're selling, especially when something's that intangible?
I think one thing you can do there is not let everyone take your course. I believe that the best businesses are built using what I call the ACP funnel.
How do I select which social media I go to?
Treating listening to a podcast or watching YouTube like a job with a notebook in front of you, very, very impactful.
If someone's listening to this and they don't have a lot of money, and if they want to have a better life, financially speaking, what are 1, 2, or 3 things that they can do immediately which will help them be financially in a better position within, say, 1 year? Hey, hello everyone. This video is very kindly sponsored by Hostinger. If you're looking for a great hosting company for your website, check out Hostinger. I have loads of websites with Hostinger, and these are the reasons why I love them. They're cheaper than most other hosting companies out there, and they offer a free domain menu via hosting. Number 2, great support. I don't think these days I can work with a company that doesn't offer 24/7 support. Not for any company, and definitely not for a hosting company. Hostinger has 24/7 support, so if anything ever goes wrong with your website, you know where to reach them. Number 3, they offer a bunch of add-ons for free when you buy a plan. Free migration of your website, free SSL, free CDN, free email management, and a bunch of other stuff. Check out Hostinger using the link in the description, and let's get back to the video. How's the YouTube thing going for you?
How's YouTube going for me?
Yeah, I was actually listening to your I can't remember the name of the guest. There was this podcast where the guest was talking about hardware, like he was talking about the processing. So I was listening to that earlier today. It was fun.
So, I mean, I'm curious your thoughts, but I'm completely switching up my YouTube strategy. So
from what to what?
I probably spent $75,000 on short form video and short YouTube, like less than 5-minute clips. The thinking was I have a podcast, long form, cut it up in smaller clips, do a little direct to camera stuff, maybe some like less than 5-minute, more tactical guides. And honestly, it didn't, first of all, it didn't really like take off. Everyone started doing these clips. So if you're going to do short form, I think you need to be, you know, you have to stand out. And the second piece is it just didn't feel right to me, honestly. Like it didn't feel like I'm not a short form guy. I'm like a long form guy. So I've been doubling down over the last month or something on these like long form conversations more than, you know, and when I say long form, I mean more than 20 minutes. And so how's YouTube going? Like really good on the long form. I'm loving it. And I think that what people really want is less edited stuff, more just like authentic, longer conversations where they can listen to something or watch something and be like, wow, I listened to this and I have these 2 to 3 really big takeaways that aren't just like scripted, that like I know that this person went through this experience and actually like, you know, communicated it. So overall, I'm having fun. I'm having fun now. I wasn't, now I'm having fun.
Good for you. Do you ever feel like when you have a lot of followers, let's say on Twitter or on LinkedIn, and then you're starting from scratch on YouTube, does it ever feel like nothing's happening?
Yes, it sucks. I'll put it another way. It sucks. You know, when you are used to, you know, on Twitter, like I tweet and most of my tweets have thousands of likes. So I'm used to the dopamine rush of that. So starting on a new platform, you know, my YouTube has 12,000 subscribers and it's been like, I've had to go out and convince every, you know, like, you know, my cousin to subscribe, you know what I mean? Like it's been so difficult to get people to subscribe. But that's really the reality of starting on any new social platform is you really need it's a very humbling experience. So I've come to terms with it. But it's definitely not fun.
It might be too early to ask this, but do you see any difference in terms of the quality of audience on Twitter versus on YouTube versus on, let's say, another social media?
The people that are subscribing to my YouTube right now are really dope, like really interesting. Like there's this perception that YouTube is lower quality versus, let's say, Twitter, like tech Twitter, for example, which is where I play in. Silicon Valley people, people who, are Wall Street. People think that, oh, YouTube is just for, it's for kids. And the reality is everyone's on YouTube. And it's so big, and because my audience is so small on YouTube right now, I see the comments and I see how like thoughtful and interesting, and I see who subscribes, because on YouTube Studio you can see who's subscribing, and I'm like, oh my god, that person subscribed, like that's really cool. So I would say the audiences are high quality.
Nice. It's the exact same thing, but with Facebook and YouTube in Bangladesh, where I'm from. Most of my videos were actually in Bangla, which is the native language for Bangladesh, up until like 3 videos ago. And I recently moved everything to English. Everyone in Bangladesh understands English, so you will still get a lot of subscribers. And I'll actually tell people now, please subscribe to Greg's channel. I'll link that down below in the description and in the comment. I know you wanted that on our first chat. So yeah, please go ahead and subscribe to Greg's channel. But yeah, it's the same thing. People think the audience on Facebook is shit and the audience on YouTube is great in Bangladesh. Because on Facebook and Facebook is super big in Bangladesh, in India, in South Asia, in that part of the world. Everyone's on Facebook. Everyone's on Facebook Watch. They're consuming like hundreds of hours of Facebook a day. And the general perception, and I've seen it on my content as well, the quality of the comments, let's say, or the quality of audience that you get on Facebook is very low compared to the quality of audience you get on YouTube. I don't know why that happens. It's the same people. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's something interesting, I guess, with video, and you do longer form stuff as well. Like you build, if someone listens to you for hours, let's say on YouTube, like you build so much affinity with people, and those are the people that are generally the most vocal. Like they're the ones that are commenting and sharing and stuff like that. So I think YouTube and podcasting are extremely high quality, just like general podcasting. I don't know how it is in Bangladesh. Like, do people listen to a lot of podcasts?
They're slowly starting. Internet revolution happened like only 3, 4, or 5 years ago in Bangladesh. Internet penetration is now slowly getting into a position where people, like, I remember when I was in school, we didn't have proper internet. When I was in school in 2010, 2011, 2012, internet was a luxury. It still is for a lot of people in Bangladesh, but at that time, it was really a big deal. Not everyone had internet. You couldn't even have internet even if you had money, because we didn't have enough service providers offering internet. So things have changed. A lot of people are now consuming internet, and a few podcasts I'd say are doing very well. They're still very early days. But if that's true, Craig, if long form is the way to go, if the audience quality is higher on long form, then why are we spending so much money on shorts?
Because I think if you could do shorts and crush it, and if you do shorts differently than everyone else, and if you want to do shorts, like you can't just, like, clips just don't work anymore. Like that Alex Hermosi style of, you know what I'm talking about, which is like big yellow chunky, font, and like the cha-ching and like all the sound effects and making it feel like a game, like that worked. And I think the reason why short form was so interesting to a lot of people is you can take, for the first time ever, you can take this media format and post it to Facebook, post it to Instagram, post it to YouTube, post it to TikTok. So you're able to create one piece of content and share it to multiple platforms. So I think that if you're a content creator, and I still think that short form is probably the first place I would think of going for that reason. That being said, if you're going to do short form, it can't be that. It can't just be how everyone else is doing it. And I'll add to that, the caveat to what I'm saying is you need to be enjoying short form in order for you to be producing short form. Like the reason why I don't like short form is I just don't like it for whatever reason. Like it doesn't feel fun for me, but going on Twitter and writing like long threads, for example, like I can do that in my sleep, or these long conversations, having like a tea chat with you. Like I just poured myself some green tea, like we're chatting, like this feels more natural to me. So I would say to anyone who wants to create an audience who's listening to this is, is this format and is this platform something that feels true to me? And sometimes you have to create in order for that, in order for you to learn that. Like you have to spend a year or 2 years doing it, and sometimes you just inherently know.
Why did you start creating content on Twitter?
So
you were already successful. You were sorry to cut you off, Greg. You were already making a lot of money. I'll give you a short intro in case people don't know who you were. You started stock trade back in the days in 2011, 12, which was a stock market simulation thing. And then you sold it, right? You sold it to, I don't know who you sold it to. Who did you sell it to?
It was a private equity group.
Okay, nice. Then you started 5buy, and then you sold it to StumbleUpon.
Yeah.
And then you sold another company, Islands, to WeWork.
Yeah.
And then you worked for Reddit and TikTok for a while.
I was an advisor to TikTok, advisor to Reddit. So I was always interested in like consumer social apps that, all my apps, everything I created had community a part of it. So that had been my thing, or is my thing.
And then you started Late Checkout,
yes.
which is your main thing now, right?
Yes, that's my main and only thing. It's a holding company that incubates, acquires, and invests businesses that have community, start with community or internet audiences.
Okay. So yeah, let's get back to that original question. Why did you start creating content? What's the point?
Originally, I was a teenager living in Montreal, Canada, and maybe this will resonate with your audience, but I think it might, because I really felt like I was disconnected from the rest of the world. Montreal is this, or Quebec is this French-speaking place. It's relatively misunderstood by the rest of Canada, so it's not really that connected in that sense. It's misunderstood and disconnected from the United States. So it's kind of this it's like up there doing its own thing, and it's developing its own culture, and that's what's amazing about it. But from an economic standpoint, it's not there, and at least it wasn't. And to me, I was just writing on the internet so I can attract like-minded people that could get me closer to all these people I looked up to, which were like my heroes, which were essentially geeks who built big companies, at the time. So I was I read books, and I'm 35 now, so this is a long time ago, but I was reading books and watching TV, and there was no YouTube or anything like that. But, I would see these people who built, in Silicon Valley or in New York, these companies, and I just felt so disconnected from them. It just felt like a pipe dream. And content was a way for me to actually get some of these people to reach out to me, which was crazy. Like the whole idea of you can create content and then, attract these people, to me I was like, this is incredible.
What did you write about, and where did you write it on? Was it a blog at one
time? I had a blog. I don't know if I've ever spoken about this, but I had a blog. It was a funny name. I started it when I was in high school, called GregIsenblog.com. It doesn't exist anymore.
Do you still have the domain?
I don't. I really should buy it back.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So, what were you actually writing about? So it was like startup stuff or business stuff?
It was sharing in real time what I'm learning building and launching products on the internet. And keep in mind, this is like,
Okay.
I'm like, I don't know, 16, 17, 18,
Yeah.
15, very young. And at the time, the internet, it was like weird for me to be doing this, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Whereas now it's more like understood, just around like there's just whole ecosystems that exist. So what was I writing about? I was writing about these like projects I would be launching or building or people I met and lessons I've learned along the way.
Do you remember the first product or service that you built that made you $1 on the internet?
Yeah, I think it was.
Was it?
I think it was a video game. I think it was called The Game World, and it was a niche review site for video games, where I was actually
Okay.
reviewing video games, and it was just this niche site, and I started really doubling down into the Nintendo ecosystem. So
Nice.
had the realization that you don't want to be everything to everyone. You don't want to just be another, review, video game review. That's very tough. But if you become a place where it's niche, super niche, and you could, cultivate a community of people like into, say, just, this one subset of video games like platformers or RPGs or Nintendo RPGs. It's you're swimming downstream versus swimming upstream. So I built that, and then I put some ads on it, and I just remember like, whoa, like it just felt so surreal because the money felt like surreal. I don't know. It just like it felt like, oh, this is like fake internet money. Like there's no way this is going to transfer to my bank account, and it did.
I was very big into there was this Amazon affiliate marketing boom in 2015, 16, 17 in Bangladesh. Everyone was building, like whoever was on the internet making money, they were either freelancing on Odesk Elance, which then combined became Upwork, or freelancer.com was very big back in the days. And there were a few other smaller marketplaces which were doing well. So everyone around me were either a freelancer or were building Amazon affiliate websites. And I remember I got into that world as well and started building websites on topics that I had no interest in. And I only built websites on those topics because they were easy to rank and had search volume. And it did well. I built a bunch of them, sold a bunch of them. And that's, I think, how I made like the first big money on the internet with Amazon affiliate websites. Oh no, good old fun days. How do you think about building? So let's say, if you have to build if you're thinking about starting a business now, I know you'd probably say that you'll build a community first, right? That's your go-to way. How do I do that? Let's take an example. I'm big into gardening. I like gardening. I can't wait for summer to start here in Ireland because you can't really grow much in February in Ireland. So yeah, I like gardening. I actually do. It's not like I like it because the internet likes it or it has search volume. I actually like gardening. So, what's the first step for me? I want to do something in gardening. I want to start a business because I hate my job, or I don't want to do my job anymore. And I don't want a lot of money. Let's say 3, 4, 5K a month is great. Even 1, 2K a month is good. What's the first step? Let's say I want to build a community. What do I?
So someone asked me this exact same question we have this membership called Community Empire. And it's just like a bunch of builders building businesses that are all powered by community. Someone asked me the same question around, I want to build something in gardening or plants. Like I love nature.
Yeah.
How would you do that using, your model? So first, let me describe my model, which is I believe that the best businesses are built using what I call the ACP funnel: audience, community, product. I generally start by building an audience. I convert that audience into a community, and then I build a product that we monetize for that community. So if I was building something in the garden, so someone said, yeah, how would you do it? using the ACP funnel. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this as a test just to prove you that I can do it. So I started an Instagram account that was plant memes, literally plant memes. And I'll show it for the YouTube people. It was called I Need Plants. And I would share these like memes, short form video, just like plant. You deserve someone who wants to know the name of all your plants. 1,800 likes. So I didn't create one single piece of content. I would actually reach out to people, ask for permission to use their content, post it on Instagram. The account started blowing up. So now all of a sudden I have 84,000 people who follow it that joined within 90 days, something like that, which is insane, which is crazy. Now I have that, and it's about how do I take a subset of those people and put them into, a private community. I didn't end up doing that, just because the person was like, whoa, like, I can't even believe you went this far, and this is insane. But, if I were to extend it, what I would do would be like, okay, like, how do I just, bring together the most hardcore of these 84,000? And maybe that means just 40 people, but I want those people in a room, metaphorically, either in a digital community or in an event series or something, so that I can figure out what are their problems and how can I prioritize their problems to build them a startup. And so my second step would be create a private community, probably free. And then my third step would be, okay, now I understand these people, go and build them a product. So that's how I would go about building a startup in the gardening space.
Gotcha. So if I want to break it down even further, so step one, do I always how do I select which social media I go to? Do I always go to Instagram? Should I go to Twitter, or do I create YouTube videos? How do I decide where to go to?
So it's obviously, there's no one size fits all to answer that question, because for the plants, for example, like Instagram made so much sense just because of how visual it is, and how visual plants are. Like it might have made less sense on LinkedIn or it might have made less sense on Twitter. But so I think you have to ask yourself, like, what, the type of content and the format that you're going to be sharing, what makes the most sense? Which platform lends the most amount of sense to it? People often say, well, I need to be on all platforms. And that's actually is not what you should be doing at all. You should be focused on one platform to start, and then you can think about expanding. There's hundreds of millions, if not billions of people that are active on these platforms. So you have more customers and you know what to do with it. So just start with one. So I just try to ask myself, like, what makes the most sense? Like what, given what I'm trying to share. And then I just focus on one platform and I try to iterate on the format so that, it's very shareable. So, and what I mean by format, just to get even more tactical, do I want to share like short, interviews of people who are gardeners? Do I want to share memes of like a picture of like a bunch of plants with like how, what I showed you with like this note? Do I want to show like notes plus plants? Like that itself is a format, right? It's notes, plants, and I can go and repeat that. So it's thinking about what is a format that's repeatable, that lends itself well to the platform, and then I just iterate. And that sometimes takes 90 days. Sometimes that takes like 3 years, honestly. Everyone's looking for I want to get famous quickly and I want to build an audience quickly. Yeah. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it takes a long time, and you have to be okay with iteration.
Let me ask you another basic question, Greg. So let's say I decide to go to Twitter, and let's say I selected a topic that goes well with Twitter, that goes well with the written form of content, and then I decide to go on Twitter. How do I learn actually how do I grow on Twitter? what's the, like, how did you grow? Did you go viral on LinkedIn, on Instagram? How did it reach to 90,000 plus? Because your YouTube isn't big, my Twitter isn't big. We definitely don't know enough about growing on YouTube or on Twitter. You did well on Instagram with that particular one, but generally speaking, if someone decides to go on Instagram or on Twitter, how would they then learn how to grow within that platform?
Well, I'll talk about Twitter first and say how I would get to 10,000. How to get to 10,000 followers in less than 6 months on Twitter is quite simple.
Yeah.
So your first step is you pick a niche that you care about. So if you care about gardening, you go and do gardening. You make a list of the 50 most influential people in gardening and gardening adjacent spaces. And then you set up tweet notifications for them. So every time that they tweet, you get a notification. When when you get a notification, actually, before I talk about that, step 0 is you optimize your profile. It's actually like step 2 is optimize your profile. Step 2 is optimize it. First, you pick your niche and then you optimize your profile. And I'll give you an example. So, like we have a internet audience, a Twitter account called @BoringMarketer, and it gets a ton of, it's basically like sharing boring ways to grow your business using AI assisted SEO. And people follow it because they're like intrigued about who's this boring marketer. So with step 2, you really want to think about how can I create intrigue, because intrigue gets people to follow. And people miss that step. Step 3, we talked about the notification. Step 4 is you want to reply thoughtfully and in an entertaining way to these notifications. When you see a notification, don't just reply saying great thread or that's really interesting or all the AI type of answers that you see on the internet. Think about how you can add value to this conversation such that the reply in itself is so valuable that people are going to like it and look at your account and be like, I'm going to give this guy a follow, almost as a tip. It's like they're tipping you because of they feel like they owe you something. That's what you should be doing. I think you can get to 10,000 followers on that Twitter strategy without even really creating any content on your own Twitter. Like you want to like learn how to grow on Twitter. Like your training wheels are completely doing replies. Everyone misses this. There's no reason why anyone can't get to 10,000 followers on Twitter within a year or even sooner.
Okay. So is boring, I actually knew about Boring Marketer. I was listening to you and Noah chatting about it. And I think he was grilling about your old businesses and side hustles and stuff. So I get to know about Boring Marketer. How do I create intrigue? I didn't understand. Do I create something that creates mystery?
That's how I do it. I create mystery. Mystery. So I think mystery is underrated. I'm just putting it out there. I think you have to have intrigue in the sense like when I go to Boring Marketer, like I'm going to open it up real quick. So first of all, it's an unknown account, so it's kind of like a character. And that works sometimes, doesn't work other times. So I'm not suggesting you need to have like a character, but the bio says boring marketing advice that brings you profit. So I kind of like, if I'm reading that, I'm like, oh, like, first of all, what's boring marketing advice? Like, what does that even mean? And bring you profit? It feels like that's something that is interesting to me, right? Like if I'm reading this, like, of course I want profit. Anonymous, so I can be 100% honest. So also that's intriguing, right? So it's like, oh, this person is going to be sharing like honest opinions. And people want that, especially on Twitter where a lot of the content feels like kind of manufactured. So we are the AI assisted SEO partner to your favorite brands. Follow along. So my point there is it's just interesting, intriguing, different than others. It's about you. It's about creating value for you. I'm going to give you, you're going to get value for following this. You're going to get profit, and you're going to get honesty where you're not going to get this anywhere else. And then having a character, I mean, a real person could be a character too. You know, I could be the community guy, you know, that's a character. But thinking about who is your character, I think is very, very helpful.
Nice. And on the third step, once I have the community, what's the right amount of people? It might be a stupid question. What's the right amount of people or impression, or like when do I know that it's time for me to go to the next step, which is getting a bunch of them to a free community?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't think about creating a free community unless you have at least 10,000 followers. Because, you know, I think the cool part about the building your internet audience and building that muscle is it's going to allow you to, like, you'll know what are the types of memes and content that's going to resonate and get shared within that community. And once you've done that, then your next goal becomes, you don't want to be platform dependent. So you don't want Twitter or Instagram or YouTube to change their algorithm, and then all of a sudden you can't reach your 10,000 people. So what's one of the reasons why a free community is really interesting is, you know, you could say, join this community. You're gonna, you know, get, let's say with boring marketing, it's like you're gonna get, you know, to meet other boring marketing people. You're gonna get one free tip on this. You're gonna get an SEO course. You're gonna get blah blah blah. It's free, but all you need to do is give me your email address to get access. So all of a sudden you convert a percentage of those of your following. Let's say it's 10,000. Let's say you get 500 or 1,000. So you get 1,000. You get 10% of your people to give the email address, and that's your bank account, right? You can never rely on your followers, but you can rely on the email addresses.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And let's say, so I do that. I get a bunch of people in my free community. Do you have any preference on where do I build that community?
Yeah.
Or it doesn't really matter? Email is fine.
I think, you know, again, no one size fits all for, you know, community. I think like sometimes it just means like a WhatsApp group, and, you know, and that works, and it's the path of least resistance. Sometimes Facebook group makes sense. I like this new platform called School. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah.
And so we host most of our communities. I'd say like 90% of them on School. And there's a bunch of reasons, you know, I'm happy to share, but like there's a bunch of reasons I like it. Yeah.
I know why you wouldn't go to Facebook groups, because then you have the same platform dependency, right? Facebook groups can cut you off at any time. Actually, they do, I think, quite frequently. So Facebook groups are definitely not the answer. Why do you like School, other than Hormozy being a part of it?
Yeah, I mean, we've been on School for a year and a half. We've been using it. I like it because, number one, you can gamify the experience. So you can basically say like I can show you if you want. Can I screen share on this?
Yeah, sure. I am part of a few School communities, but I'm never super active in any of those. It feels like a mix of Reddit and Meetup. I don't, maybe it'll take some time for me to get into School, or maybe I didn't find the right community yet. I still see it from time to time. I get the email notifications and then I go to and see a bunch of posts, but it's the same way I use Reddit, not religiously.
It's the same, where am I going? School. It's it's like any community, like it has to be a good community, you know what I mean? Like, or else you're not going to go back.
Yeah.
So this is a private community our team runs called Community Empire. So that's what I was mentioning. It's like this membership for people who want to build businesses based on the ACP funnel. And I want to share one thing. First is the metrics.
Okay.
So I've never shown this anywhere, but we have 300 people in our 309 people in our group. 205 were active in the last week. That's massive. You know, in the past 30 days, like 98% are monthly actives. So if you provide a lot of value in your community, people will come back. I think that's really interesting. The other reason I like it is you have these leaderboards. So like here we have this classroom and we have different, like essentially these are courses really, or trainings on how to do, and on building, you know, your business empire basically. And there's like guest lectures, but like launching on Reddit, for example, like we have this whole, you know, course here. The only way you can get access to it is if you reach level 2. And the only way you get access to level 2 is if you post on the community and you get points. Because when you post and you get likes, you get more points. And then that incentivizes people to be more active. Because then it's like, oh yeah, I want to get access to the guest lectures. And you can see only 18% of members have gotten here, but that's why the community is so active, you know, is because of the gamification. So I love that. I love that also you can just like create a post and you can create like actions. So describe the action you want members to complete. Introduce yourself, share a picture of your workspace, and then you can send an email to all your members with this in there. So it's very tied into email. So those are the reasons I like it. I mean, is it the most beautiful platform? Absolutely not. And I'm a like designer, so I could look at it and I'm like, wow, I think it could be more beautiful, but it's the most practical. It's very practical.
Makes sense. Nice. So it's a paid community. If it's a paid community, Greg, then do I even need to go to step 4 or 5 where I'm building a product or service for the community, or
you can stop there? If it's a paid community, like on School, you can like accept payments, and you can just say like, in order to I don't know, get access to this, it's gonna be $10 a month. You know, with that community, we charge $99 a month. Have 300 members, so it's making $30,000 a month. It's crazy. But I will say, we buy it, at least as of now, we buy a school subscription for everyone who joins. So that's another thing that you can do. If you're thinking about creating a paid membership, think about, is there any software that you could bundle into your paid membership so that the price becomes a no-brainer? So, for example, if you wanted to start your own school, it would cost you $99 a month. So we did a deal with school to buy it. And now, like, obviously you would join my group because it's $99 a month and you get all this extra stuff with it. It becomes a no-brainer. So that's how people should be thinking about building your own paid community, is thinking about how can I structure it to be like a no-brainer offer, include things like software. And then someone might be listening to this and be like, well, easy for you. You probably just reached out to the founder of school and he was like, sure, you know. But you'd be surprised, like DMing people who have software products, who have high margin businesses, they're totally cool with being like, yeah, like, you know, let's share in the revenue or do some other deal like that. There's tons of opportunity there.
Cool. And if we just keep going down towards if we just move to the next step, if I have to, or if I want to create a product or service based on my community, so I want to create a product or service that serves the community, how do I find the idea for that one? Do I ask? Do I listen? Do I just come up with, I'm also interested in the same topic as theirs, so do I just look at my own problems of life? How do I find one?
So I like going to Reddit and checking subreddits and basically looking at and observing to see like what are the problems that this group of people have, and just writing notes. So I do that quite a bit. There's some tools that actually could accelerate that for you. There's a tool called gummysearch.com, which basically goes through Reddit.
Yeah.
And you could like, and there's like you can basically just take a subreddit and it's like, give me all the problems in the subreddit, and it'll use AI to surface those. So you can either do it manually or use a tool like that. I like doing both, and those will just spark ideas. Those will spark ideas because people are going to be like, you know, with the gardening example, let's say it's like, oh, I'm having trouble, like, you know, buying cactuses in Orlando. And it's like, oh, maybe there's an opportunity to sell cactuses in Orlando, you know? So it'll spark ideas.
So let's say you find so it's a two-part question. First, how do you know if a business idea is a good business idea? And second, if you know it's a good business idea, do you still build the community first, or do you just jump in with the business and then start paid marketing?
I never, ever, and I've built a lot of businesses, just built a business and then been like, yeah, and then I'll just do paid marketing and see what happens. To me, that's a very high risk way of building a business. You know, I think that some people might be listening to this and be like, well, it's going to take me so long to build an audience. Then I have to build a community, and then I have to build a product. Yeah, well, the product that you're going to be building by the end of that flow is going to be so much more dialed in and so much have a higher likelihood of actually working, because you'll have built in the reps to really understand who these people are and what are their pain points and how can I build something for them. You're going to have a line of customers out the door versus actually paying to interrupt people on platforms like Instagram and Facebook and just putting ads in their faces. They're going to want to buy from you instead of you pushing to buy. And then, like, yeah, how do I know if an idea is good? Well, like, I've gone through that whole process, but a good idea for me is something that's asset light, doesn't take a lot of money to get started, but is a painful problem for a lot of, you know, a good chunk of that community at least. And that has the ability to add complexity over time. So for example, let's think, you know, I might start using the plant example. Like, I might start with a paid school or paid membership for people at plants. And that's like really easy to start. $10 a month, and you're at like a weekly session by some like well-known creator talking about, I don't know, how to trim bonsai trees. And then every month you're going to get a bonsai tree. You know, that's like the deal that you do. Instead of software, you get like, you do a deal with like a bonsai creator and or bonsai shop, and they said, you know, they'll send you something. $100 a month. I don't know what it is. Anyways, that doesn't have a lot of moat and defensibility. You know, you're not, but like, you can build a great business there. You're looking for things that look like that are easy to start, that you can then layer on, like, oh, maybe one day you become a plant shop, internet, like the Amazon of plants. Like, there's a way that, you know, Amazon's is the best example of that, right? It started off as like a little bookstore on the internet, and then they ended up selling everything, and now they're selling servers, and now they're selling like AI in your house, right? So those are the best businesses, asset light, but that could actually eventually that have unlimited upside.
Do you always recommend so just going with that asset light notion, do you ever think about, I'll just create my own stuff, or do you always think about it? Does your mindset always go towards partnering with someone who will then be the supplier of the thing? Or do you ever think about creating your own thing? Because you're from the digital background, we are asset light people, don't like stuff in our garage. So what's the thinking process like?
I think ultimately I care about value given to customer and value given to community. So I'm just trying to jam as much value as possible into the offering, such that the word of mouth of the offering is so great. Like with community, like the membership I was showing in Community Empire, like people are constantly sharing how amazing it is, and posting on Twitter of like how, and other places where, oh my God, I can't believe this is $99 a month. Like that's where you want to be. You want to be there. So, you know, because of that, and because you want to test things quickly and be asset light, partnering with other folks makes sense. often. So generally, I do start. It isn't uncommon that we'll partner in some capacity, but sometimes we'll just create do it ourselves if we have super high conviction, or if it's a space we really understand extremely well, or we have technology, we've built our own technology.
Gotcha. As I'm from Bangladesh, and it's not a super rich country, though I'm now in Ireland for the last 7 years, but the mindset is still the same. And for most of my audience, I think the mindset is still the same, where for some reason, it causes some sort of pain when I think about increasing the price of anything that I sell. And it's a fear. I don't know why, but it's a fear. How do you know how much to charge for what you're selling, especially when something's that intangible, like a community? You don't really know how to value your product because it's all in your head, and you can't really put numbers on a paper and decide like it should be $99. I'll give you an example. We had a course we started back in 2017. At that time, it was only an affiliate marketing course, and then it became like a digital marketing thing where we started teaching everything. It was $50 when we started in 2017. Now it's approximately $250. It's a one-time fee, and people get access to everything for life once they pay it. So it's like the way we market it is it's Netflix, but with one-time payment instead of a subscription. We have nearly 22,000 subscribers now, like members, not subscribers. They just paid once. And when it was $50, people said it was expensive. It's $250 now. People still say it's expensive. I get bashed every day on different social media. It's one of the most expensive ones in Bangladesh, and I get like hundreds of negative comments. It's one of if I list down the reasons people hate me, this would probably be in the top 2 or 3, the price of the product. So yeah, how do you decide what price to go for?
Is it people who are in your audience who have not bought the course, or is it your course customers?
It's people who want to buy the course in my audience. They watch my YouTube videos or they read my Facebook posts and stuff, but they can't buy it because it's not affordable for them.
Okay, a few thoughts. One is, forget about the price and think about the value. It's all about the value. So if people are taking your course, $250, but they're getting $1,250 in value, then that's a great price point. You're creating a vending machine, essentially. $250 in, $1,250 out. It is very, very, like, you're making the world a better place in that way, because people are gonna do really well from that, and then from that course and that experience, and might be able to provide for their family, might be able to pass on that information to someone else. Like, there's a lot of good that you're doing. When I look at, so I think one thing when you think about pricing is to think about how much value am I realistically giving to people, and listing out what you think that value is. And make it a no-brainer offer, right? So like, the no-brainer offer with my membership is like, you can either buy school at $99 a month, or you can buy Community Empire for $99 a month, get a school, but also get free startup ideas every single month, a place to vent, get feedback on your startup ideas, $50,000 of deals on software tools. Like, there's a million things that we give that it's like, you make people feel stupid for not, if you have $99 a month and you're interested in this space, and you make people feel almost stupid for not buying it. And the next piece is, you have to be okay with, there's going to be a bunch of people who want to take, buy your product, but can't afford it. And it sucks. That does suck. Like, and it's unfortunate, because a bunch of people would be able to buy your product, and I think that there should be more programs in place to basically do like scholarship type things and sponsoring of people to bring them into that ecosystem. Because I think if we create products where only like rich people basically get access to, that's unfair for everyone. So I think it is important as us as creators and us as business builders to not just create an environment that's only for rich people. But that being said, your primary motive 100% should be value. How much value am I taking in? How much dollars in? How much value am I coming out? That's the only way to think about it. And you should never feel bad about pricing based on that, in my opinion.
The reason that I asked that to you is because what happened with, or it's a constant battle. There are a lot of people who did well, who are doing well after they join the course that we sell, but there are also a lot of people who don't. Let's say we have 22,000 people so far who have joined, who have paid me money to get access to everything since 2017. So it's been a while, 6-7 years. I would say 4,000-ish or about 4,000 would have done well. They got the full value out of the course. They got a job, they got better gigs, they either became a better freelancer or they started their own thing after the course. So 4,000 people definitely got more value than the money that they put in. But there are a lot of people who didn't. And I don't know what to feel about that when I know that a bunch of people actually didn't become successful after they paid me money. And that's why it's a constant battle where I always think about, is the price justified for the value that I provide? Because there are a lot of unsuccessful people as well.
Did they not get $250 of value? Like, even in the worst case? Like,
it's very tough to know. You don't know because it's information and you don't know what the value of information is. For some people, the stuff that you said, the formula, the steps, it might be invaluable. For someone, it might mean nothing. and I don't know how to price that.
I think one thing you can do there is not let everyone take your course. So having more screening options around, like, answer these 20 questions so I can see if you're serious about taking this course. And then if so, it's $250. I think that is something that people could do to help in that case. If you're targeting, not that if your audience were $250, I mean, $250 means a lot to everyone, but it does mean more to certain people from certain countries. I think that there's stuff that you can do as a business builder to create steps to make sure that everyone gets value. But I do believe that you could build digital products and you could build businesses powered by the internet that is 100% a win-win for everyone who takes your product. And that's how you have to structure these offers. I think it's a really important point that you bring up because a lot of people don't think about it that way. And so I'm happy you are bringing it up.
Nice. Thanks. Let me summarize everything before I ask you for a personal suggestion. So step 1, I think about correct me wherever you think I'm wrong. Step 1, I think about what am I interested in and in what industry do I want to go to, or what are the passions that I have. And then I select a thing that I want to create a business in. Then I go in, I actually, the next step would be to think about the social media platform that I should go on to create content around that specific thing. So depending on the thing, I either go on, so let's say gardening, for example, gardening is visual. So I go to Instagram if I'm going to play with still photos or maybe reels. If I want to create long form videos, I go on YouTube. If I want to write about gardening, I go on Twitter. I decide where to go to based on the topic that I selected. I create content. I create good content. I look at what other people are creating on that same topic. And then I try to be big on that social media, try to get to that 10,000 mark, if not more. And then I move them into a paid community or a free community on another platform to get their emailers because I can't rely on the social media. And then I create a product or service to serve that audience that I built. So it can be a seed subscription thing. It can be anything based on that, your interest. Is that the summary you'd say? Is that how you build a business now?
It's always
it always sounds
but
simple.
I think I'll add, here's where I'll just, you summarize it brilliantly. The only thing that for folks listening that make this hard to do? Because I don't want people to listen to that and be like, oh, I can, anyone could do it. No, here's where it's hard. With that ACP funnel I was talking about and that you mentioned, ACP, audience, community, product.
Yeah.
There's audience market fit, community market fit, product market fit. So at each step, you basically have to figure out, am I creating something like for the audience? Am I creating content that's really resonating with people? At the community step, it's, am I creating a community experience that really resonating with people? And the product step, am I creating a product that's really resonating with people? And at each step, it's quite difficult to iterate to get to that point. That being said, I believe that, if you're, not everyone could be successful, but I do believe that if you really understand your community and you understand how to create content well on the internet, then anyone could be successful,
anyone can be
right?
successful.
And success could mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
It could mean, as you said, making $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month, or it could be making $30,000 a month. I think the success comes in various shades, but I do believe that this model and this framework is the future of business.
Gotcha. Thanks for sharing everything. And it is always very nice to listen to you on the pod, on like your podcasts and stuff that you do. You have a very calming presence. I'm sure you get that a lot. It's not I don't know how to explain this. It's like I feel like I'm in a therapy in like somewhere in Thailand when I'm speaking with you. My Twitter sucks, Greg. My YouTube is big. My Facebook is big. My LinkedIn, I would say, is not bad. I have like 50, 60,000 followers there. I'm not trying to monetize anything specifically on YouTube or on LinkedIn or on Facebook, just randomly creating content. Everything worked. Even Instagram is decent. TikTok is decent. For some reason, Twitter, actually, it's my fault. Obviously, I never prioritized Twitter, but it sucks. And I don't know what to do about it. And you're very big on Twitter. You're successful on Twitter. You actually gave a plan of how to get to 10,000 followers by just replying earlier in this podcast. So just if you can add to that for me specifically, is there anything that you think I can do other than replying to basically what you said, your suggestion? Other than that, is there anything specific that I should do to grow my Twitter if I don't have a product or service or a community to build back in my mind? I don't have a particular interest based on which I want to grow on Twitter. Like, I like gardening, but I don't want gardening people on my Twitter, only gardening people on my Twitter. I like business, but I just don't want only your tweets to come up on my Twitter, for example. So in that instance where I don't have one particular, like if I'm not doing it as a proper strategy, how do I grow on Twitter?
What does success look like for you on Twitter?
I'd say at least 50, 60,000-ish followers where people are listening to what I'm saying, where this podcast, for example, if I share it on Twitter, it gets 20, 30, 50,000 views.
But be even more specific on that. So like, it's not just that you care about 50, 60,000 listeners or views. It's you care about a specific type of person listening, no?
I do. Yeah. I have had decent success from people in Bangladesh. Now I want this to go international. So I want someone like you to consume the stuff that I produce.
So that's a great, so not only do you want, 50,000+ followers, you want those followers to be like from the business tech community in the US, maybe, or North America. I think you want Silicon Valley, New York, LA, those types of people to be following you. And I think that the question there becomes, well, what's the type of content that those people aren't getting today? And I'll share my own, I try to get to those people too. That's who I'm trying to get to. And one of the things that I've learned is recently on Twitter specifically, is that if you share long form stories, basically, with an image, it's highly, highly effective. And that image doesn't need to be like a highly produced stuff. Sometimes I share these like scribbles on like a napkin, basically. Um,
Yeah.
and you know, people enjoy those. So, I think that you can easily do like a long post, like, how I got to 1 million YouTube subscribers, doing XYZ. And someone like me would read that if it was in long form with like a framework associated with it. So versus like when I go to your Twitter now, which feels like very random.
It's very
Exactly.
random.
Like that's not what people want when they're deciding how to follow people on Twitter. They very much have I'm not following a boring marketer. I need to follow a boring marketer. Oh, I'm not following a person who's like building a business on top of YouTube. I'm going to go follow that person. So you have to be that slot and long form stories. And why long form stories? Because no one can compete with you based on your own life. Like these are, yes, people can copy tweets about other frameworks and stuff like that, but like no one can copy your own real life experiences that you have.
Thanks for sharing that, Greg. If I just last question before I let you go. If someone's listening to this and they don't have a lot of money, which a lot of my audience are probably students in Bangladesh who don't really have a lot of money to play with, and if they want to have a better life, financially speaking, what are 1, 2, or 3 things that they can do immediately, which will help them be financially in a better position within, let's say, 1 year?
The number one thing, I'll just give one thing, which is listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing like listening, so many of these conversations that were in closed doors basically are now, the Tim Ferriss podcast is a great one I like listening to. The My First Million podcast is a great one I like listening to. I have a podcast that people are interested, Where It Happens podcast that people like. I probably spend at 1 to 2 hours a day listening to podcasts and just taking notes. And I think it's so interesting when you're in the ears of people, like when you're listening to someone on your ears, I guess, you almost feel like you get to know someone and you feel like you're in the room and it'll get you to start thinking like them. And it'll make you feel less disconnected, to go back to what we were talking about in the beginning. Like I felt that way, like where I was very disconnected, as I was mentioning, growing up. And I had to fly into these, like I moved to the US and I had to like fly to I lived in San Francisco for 9 years and I had to like do all these things and uproot myself from my family and friends. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just live in Bangladesh and just listen to these people on podcasts and watch, YouTube and just take notes and actually go and do stuff and don't be just the listener, right? Be the doer too. I definitely like to leave that with.
That's actually very important, Greg, because there are people who would listen to podcasts all day. And if you really want to listen to podcasts, there are hundreds of great ones and you can just spend your 24 or your 8 waking hours starting with Huberman, ending with me or you. And like you can feel like you've done a lot by just listening to podcasts all day, because there are a bunch of great ones out there. How do you take notes when you listen to podcasts, and what are you specifically looking for to take notes of when you're listening?
Oh, I lost the question. What's the question?
The podcast is a passive consumption thing for most people, so they're not always thinking about taking notes when they're listening to a podcast. How do you do that? And are you looking for anything specific to take notes of?
There's an app called Sniped, SNIPD, and it allows you to like clip podcasts and highlight parts of podcasts and take notes.
Yeah.
So I would suggest downloading an app like that and being like conscious of like, I'm not just going to go for a walk and listen and just, this is going to be entertainment. It's like, no, I'm going to sit down at my desk. I'm going to listen. I'm going to pull out a notebook and I'm going to take this seriously. Like you treat it like a job, I remember a long time ago, I dropped out of school, but I when I was thinking about dropping out, I was learning to code. And I remember, I think I was speaking to my brother. My brother was like, yeah, you know, I was like telling him I'm thinking of dropping out or something. And he was like, if you're going to drop out or something and you're going to learn to code, treat it like a job, you know, like treat it like a job. 9 hours a day, like put it in your calendar, you know? And I never thought about that because at the time I was a student and I was like, yeah, like I'll just kind of like, I don't know, read at night or whatever. Anyways, the point is, long story short, is treating listening to a podcast or watching YouTube like a job with a notebook in front of you, very, very impactful. And using an app like Snite.
Cool. Listen, Greg, thanks a lot for doing this. I'll link everything, all your stuff. If you want to plug something, now's the time, but I'll link everything in the description and in the first comment anyways. And yeah, everyone, please go subscribe to Greg's stuff. Do you have any particular place that you want people to
YouTube. Yeah. Find me on YouTube. Okay. And if this was helpful, if you didn't like me, don't subscribe to YouTube.
You can still subscribe. It wouldn't really mess up with your analytics video. Please go subscribe to Greg's channel. Thanks a lot, Greg, for doing this.